Jade crept down the alley on silent feet. Grayson Kester, alpha of the Moon's Edge pack, stepped into the alley and grabbed her wrist effortlessly in his huge hand. Her world collapsed as her soul cried out in ecstasy. Grayson Kester, the man who killed her parents, was her fated mate.
Now that's a hook, right? My name's Harry, and this is Story School. How do you pick the best place to start your story? Not as easy as it sounds, right? A hook isn't when your character wakes up and just goes about their day-to-day life. Now, if your character wakes up and all of a sudden the love of their life has been abducted, now you're onto something. A hook gives your characters purpose. It gives your readers a chance to get emotionally invested in the story and what's happening to the characters. And the best way to do this is by giving your character something emotional to respond to. This is Wattpad creator Nicole Nwosu, here to help talk about how hooks get readers engrossed and invested in your story. Nicole, what are some strategies that you use to hook your readers in your stories?
So basically, I would try to do whatever I could to actually make sure that the reader gets through the first chapter. I really want them to be invested. So what I would try to do is probably introduce a huge event or a huge character that is going to ultimately change their life. So for instance, in my series, The Bad Boy and the Tomboy, Macy Anderson, our protagonist, she literally bumped into Samuel Cahill, who is her future love interest. And basically, from that moment onward, her entire life kind of changes because she meets him.
Once you have your reader's attention, how do you keep it?
I constantly throw actions at my characters or throw different events. So basically, we're forced to explore their dynamic. For instance, Macy and Sam, they end up on a soccer team together. So because of this, they constantly have to work on the field and off the field as well, and readers get to see their dynamic from their point of views, basically.
Drama.
Drama indeed.
So are there like other hooks that you like to use? Like what about inciting incidents?
Inciting incidents is a good one. It's basically when like the main character is thrust into like a huge conflict in the beginning of the story. I feel like an example of that would be like, I don't know, like a use of tropes or something, like a second chance trope. Oh my gosh, someone's on their honeymoon with their husband. Suddenly she sees her ex-husband. And then it's like, it starts off a whole different story and it's like, what's gonna happen now?
That's my worst nightmare.
You would be able to like establish that the reader knows what they're looking for because you're introducing a trope that they might actually like, as well as you're throwing the character into the middle of a conflict all of a sudden. And I feel like that makes it really intriguing.
Totally, using those tropes as an introduction to your story as your hook is like such a great way to kick off. So what about like threat teasers?
When you can use those really well, they're such an interesting type of hook, and it really makes me want to keep reading.
Totally, and can be like completely terrifying, especially in like a horror story or something, right? So what about flash forwards?
I like flash forwards. I feel like those are like a promise to the reader of like what's about to happen. For instance, like in a horror novel or something, where in the first scene, someone's getting chased by a monster, and then we go back to the beginning and it's just them and they're happy. And it's like, how do we get to that instance? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like in a romance, you can have this like fiery, steamy, passionate love, and then you kind of flash back to the actual beginning of the story and they hate each other.
Yeah. Like, how did we get here?
Exactly.
It makes the readers want to know more, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do you actually know if your hook worked?
The readers keep reading. I actually have a new hook right now.
Oh, that's cool. Can I take a peek?
You're gonna have to wait and see.
Hooks shake up the life of your character. There are hundreds and thousands of hook examples that you could use to start your story. The key is to pick a moment that propels your characters into the story in an emotional moment that resonates with the reader. The key then is to keep amping up those stakes until the story concludes. Thanks for watching Wattpadders. See you next time.